Hello there, this is Zeeebo and welcome back to yet another video. So for today's Dunlingr PvP team showcase, we're gonna feature two different team variants for Dunlingr in terms of the PvP side of things. And the reason for this is because for Dunlingr's case, I think this character has a few different ways to play him, right? And in most cases, let's just assume that you're using him as the skill locker. Right, if you're using him for the spellbind and cure lock locking abilities, this unit is actually a double-edged sword because the unable to cast ultimate as well as the unable to recover HP for others also applies to your own team. So when you are doing your team building, right, obviously there are certain builds which are a lot stronger than others, but at the same time, right, there's also better ways to play around the different locks that he has for the whole battlefield to actually fully maximize your team's ability. So without further ado, I'm going to hop into the Supreme Arena setting to just showcase the two teams and the different variances that you guys can do to the team building to bring Dunlingr into battle. So right here, we're going to take on this guy. Okay, so the very first team is none other than the D&D team. So Dunlingr and Dino. Let me just put the units or the core units first and then explain the rationale for the team and why this team is really good. So before I start, right, Dunlingr as a unit fundamentally is not that good for the defensive side, okay, because there's a lot of ways to play around him. If you guys want to know about the reasons why this unit is not so good on the defense, let me know. I'll probably do a video and showcase the reasons why. But on the offensive side, this is where Dunlingr truly shines, and you usually place Dunlingr based on what your enemies play. So if, for example, right now we are playing against a very ultimate or iron skill centric team, we're gonna use the spell lock, right? We are preventing the enemies from doing what they want to do, and that's where we're gonna use the D&D team, Dun and Dino, because Dino, being buffed up by Dun, is able to use the ultimate with the Clemency Chime EX weapon ability, and at the same time Dino offers one of the fastest bursts against the enemy when he builds up in terms of his stack. So in this case, right, with regards to the team build, obviously the old teammate of Dino is really good as well. So let's put Dino here and put Skalita here. This is because you get like a whole bunch of stats with these three Celestials together. And for Skalita's case, Skalita is able to shoot up the target that is being focus fire to buy more time for Dino to do what he wants to do, okay? And then for Dino to quickly reach the maximum buff potential, we are running Verdant Spell for one buff, and then we are also running Damien for the other one. So for this one, we're going to put Damien here because for Damien's case, Damien has this ability, the Magic Charm ability, which provides the damage reduction and energy on hit, which will protect Dun a little bit better. And then the last unit of choice, I think for the last unit of choice, it depends, because right now we already have three different buffs for Dino. We have the buff coming out from Damien's EX weapon, we have the buff coming out from Skalita's skill, we also have the buff coming out from Verdant Spell. However, if you want to get to the third stack of Dino's ability to maximize the true damage potential, then, right, putting in another buffer, for example, like Smokey, for example, like, yeah, I think Smokey in this case is usable because we already locked the enemy's ultimate, but we still might get controlled by our dear Almas, Arden, as well as Carolina, so I'm not going to use him. I'm just going to put in Laika, which is one of the most like commonly used because of the attack speed buff, as well as the quick start of the skill buff at the start of battle. So this allows Dino to steamroll super duper quickly on the offense. So for that very last slot, what I'll say is for Laika slot, if you don't want to use Laika, or if you have other conditions to consider, for example, you need more protection on Dino, you can obviously use Niru. So Niru is one of those units that works in the Dino team because if you have Niru, Dino is definitely gonna fly into the air and then start killing units once he builds up his stack. But for Niru's case, Niru doesn't actually provide a buff. He provides for more sustain for Dino to get through. So that is one thing for Niru's case if you're running Niru. So this is one way to protect Dino. Another way to make Dino work is using our dear Parisa here as well. Parisa also has a buff for Dino, but Parisa's buff is actually insanely good for Dino, because Parisa's buff, if we take a look at the buff ability, this inspiration provides attack speed as well as normal attack damage. So Diana hits super duper hard on the normal attack damage side. So this buff is actually super duper massive. It's really good, but there is a possibility that your buff might fall on another target if you do get repositioned. So that's something that you need to know. But against this enemy right here, because Dan is locking onto the ultimate for Iron, we won't be repositioned. So I'll say that in this case, if my Dino doesn't fly out of the buff range of Parisa, we should get the buff for Dino. Okay, so this is for Parisa's case. So these are the few ways you can actually slot in the last unit. I'll say for Skaleta's case, Skaleta is also relatively replaceable if you have ways to buff the Dino while providing for sustain. So for example, if you are running Hewin in this team as well, so let's say if you're running Hewin in this team, because you have heals, you are able to actually keep your team healthy, and then you can put, for example, Laika, right? So now we're gonna put Laika. So the slot, the first and the last two slots, right, the Skaleta slot as well as the buff slot, I'll say is relatively flexible. Depends on who you feature on the other team, but I think the 3 units that are consistent for this team would be Dino, and obviously Damien, because Damien provides for the heal, also provides for the buff for Dino stack to build up. Okay, so we're gonna run this without Skaleta and showcase the team power. So for the other matchups, we're not gonna win, because I want to showcase more fights. If I win this, I climb up and then I won't have the other team showcase for you guys. Okay, so now let's go through the battle. Okay, so for this one, we'll start the battle. Locks onto the ultimate of Iron, so the enemy loses that insta cast. And right here, as you guys can see, we got a buff from Laika, we got a buff from Verdant Spell, and we also got a buff from Damien, giving us the 3 buffs on Dino to quickly burst down the enemy. So this is where this D&D team is super duper powerful on offense, because most of the defensive team has no way to outpace Dino in terms of damage dealing, and because Dan is able to lock the enemy from doing what they need to do, right? This is where this team is really good on offense. Is this team good on defense? Based on my testing so far, there are ways to counter it, and there's more than one way. So I probably won't do the counter videos until this Dan and Dino team becomes over prevalent on the defense, because yeah, this team has a lot of counters on the defensive side, so you guys probably won't have an issue with that. But for this offensive team, for this Dan and Dino team, is really solid. It goes really well against very standard matchups, like for example your Iron Control. For example, units like right here, this team is not the standard team, right? This team over here, Talin team as well, right? You prevent Talin from using the ultimate, you prevent Coco from using the ultimate itself, and then you just quickly burst the enemy down with Dino. So that's how the D&D team works, right? You control the enemy while quickly hypercharging your Dino, and because your enemy has no way to control Dino, you quickly run them over with the burst damage potential. So that's how D&D team works. I'm probably gonna showcase one more battle, maybe against the Talin team, to showcase the prowess of this unit. So we have a Zeeebo here, but Zeeebo doesn't have a Talin. So let's take on who has a Talin? Okay, there's a Talin team here. Okay, we're gonna take on the we're gonna take out the same guy, but instead we're gonna put the Dino team on the last slot. Okay, so this is the Dunlingr. Okay, so we're gonna, yeah, this way we will get the buff. Okay, so for this one, by locking the ultimate, the key damage dealer from the enemy's team, which is Talin, won't be able to use her abilities, and that's where you just win the fight, because you lock her down. But another problem with Dunlingr, I realized, is that this character is, I would say that it's not tanky. It's just not as tanky as the likes of Torrent or Freesto, that you kind of need some sort of healing support to back him up. So if you're using the ultimate Spellbind, you can still put in healers like Hewin and Damien for that, and that's precisely what I'm running. So that's why I mentioned that for Skalita slot, if you don't have Skalita, or if you're using Skalita in your other teams, you can obviously put Hewin together with Damien so that you have this very powerful healing duo to back up the team while buffing up Dino. So this is the team showcase. So for the second team showcase, we will build a team around the Cure Lock, which prevents the enemies from healing. And usually what you want to use this team against is enemies with a whole bunch of heals in their team, right? If they run Ludovic, they run Hewin, they run Damien, they run like all the different healers or just units that heal the enemy's team in general, this is where you use the Cure Lock Dunlingr. So let's put it here. Okay, and for this team we're gonna have our own supports with the heals, so we're gonna feature Hewin. Okay, so we're gonna Hewin the Clemency Chime, because this way Hewin will not be affected, right? Hewin will not be affected by his order, and even though the enemies or everyone else cannot recover HP for others, Hewin is able to do that. And if Hewin gets the ultimate through, we will be able to heal up the whole team and then keep the sustain going to continue the fight itself. So considering the enemy's team, let me see. I think we might want... Okay, considering the Wilder setup, I might not want to use Graveborn, but Nara might be a good choice here. Just to hook out, just to hook out this. And then we're gonna put in a Vala. Okay, so we're gonna put in Vala. Okay, let's see whether or not we can find a position for Vala. Okay, I think Vala on Lily May is fine. Yeah, I think Vala on Lily May is fine. And we're gonna also put our own Lily May just to prevent some important ultimates. And also bring down enemies fast, I think. Yeah, so let's go with this one. And without further ado, let me just make the other teams weaker so we die quickly. Okay, so let's start the battle. Okay, so we'll go at one time. So we hook in the Hewin, quickly bring down the Hewin. Okay. And then we have Vala locking onto Lily May to slow down her ultimate, and then we burst her down with Vala. So throughout this whole fight, the enemy's heal is not going through, while we still have our Hewin healing the whole team up with her ultimate as well as her normal heal. So we go with the burst team while having a little bit of sustain. So I think this Dun and Hewin combo is best fitted with the triple assassins, because you can quickly bring down an enemy by locking down their heal and then have your own sustain from the likes of Hewin. So Skalita came down and Skalita is doing some work, but I think we should still be fine because it's Skalita and Fresto against Lily May, Nara and Dunlingr without any heal, because the heal is still being locked. Okay, no more bell, but I think Damien's heal should probably, okay, Damien's heal will be locked, so you lock down the heal, and then this way is just who has the better quality damage dealer. So now we lost all healers. My healer died, unfortunately, but it's fine because we have Lily May as well as Dun, and Dun locks down the heal from Damien. Okay, the bell is gone, but it should be fine. Okay, so Lily May continues to attack. Okay, so in fact, I think for this Dun Hewin combo, it might be actually a good choice to also feature Lily May in the team, in a sense. That way, if you put in one more Wilders, you will be able to get your factional talent to quickly ramp up on your Lily May. So that is one thing which you can consider. So I think if we think about that, then maybe we can take out Nara for another Wilders like Arden for that quick damage burst. Or maybe even for Iron, right? If the enemies are not running Lily May to cancel out Iron's ultimate, then you can do that. If not, I think for that slot, considering the fact that we are going for a very fast-paced battle, I think you can also feature Bryon as well. Yeah, Bryon's also okay because Bryon actually deals pretty quick bursts to quickly bring down the enemy, and Bryon has some survival on his own, so he's, I'll say, like pretty good for that additional factional talent buff, as well as to fit into the team of Hewin as well as Lily May, getting that factional bonus. So that's pretty much it, the two teams that I recommend in terms of the Dunlingr PvP side of things. So considering the fact that you're using Dunlingr for multiple different reasons, right, you might want to position your unit as well as use different sets of units accordingly based on the situation itself. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. See you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.